Ever since we're children, the world begins whispering things to us. Some of these whispers sink so deep we never even question them. They become phrases that seep into our soul, thoughts we repeat without realizing we're repeating them. And these phrases, though they may seem harmless, even well-intentioned, can turn into mental traps that keep us tied down, small, immobile. This isn't just a collection of ideas. It's a confrontation. An invitation to look at yourself and ask, how many of these lies are you still carrying? How many times have you said them, believed them, lived them, without realizing they're sabotaging your life? The first big lie you need to tear down is, I'm not enough. This is one of the most deeply rooted and dangerous beliefs out there. It shows up in different forms. I'm not good enough, I don't have what it takes, I'm not as smart as others, I'm not ready yet. This voice, disguised as prudence or humility, is actually a form of silent self-destruction. We repeat it in our minds every time we let an opportunity pass, every time we don't raise our hand, every time we don't take that step for fear of failing. But let me tell you something no one tells you enough. Nobody starts out being enough. Enoughness isn't a starting point. It's a state you build that develops through action. The problem is we wait to feel ready before acting. We wait to feel confident before starting. But the truth is confidence comes after action, not before. It's in the trying, the mistakes, the growing where we begin to feel capable. Courage doesn't feel powerful. Often, courage feels like fear, but you choose to move forward anyway. And that's where change begins. You're not the only one who's ever felt inadequate. Even people who seem to have it all together have moments of doubt. The difference is some people act despite the doubt. They learn as they go. They fall and get back up. You can be that person. You don't need to have everything figured out. You just need the courage to take one more step. Because every step you take, no matter how small, moves you further from that lie. And the more you move forward, the more you realize, it was never real. Just an old story that no longer serves you. The second lie sabotaging your life is, it's too late for me. This belief disguises itself as logic. It sounds reasonable, even mature. At a certain age, many accept it as absolute truth. I don't have the energy anymore. It doesn't make sense. My time has passed. But this is nothing more than a mental prison. Who decides when it's too late? Who sets the clock that marks the end of your possibilities? History is full of people who began their true path after 40, 50, even 70. Not because they were special, but because they refused to accept this lie. What really holds you back isn't time, it's resignation. It's that inner voice saying it's not worth trying again. But if you're alive today, if you can see this, if you can think and feel, then you still have time. The time left is more than enough if you choose to use it with intention. This isn't about reclaiming the past. It's about redesigning your present and honoring your future. Some people give up at 25. Others start new projects at 70. What's the difference? Mindset. Inner fire. The decision that no matter what happened, you can still create something valuable. The problem isn't age, it's the fear of starting over. But every new beginning requires courage. And if you face that fear, I promise you, life can surprise you. The third lie seems harmless but has a devastating effect. If it were meant for me, it would be easy. This idea is everywhere. You hear it in phrases like, if it's so hard, maybe it's not for you, or, when something's right, it flows. And while there's some truth in following your intuition, there's also a big trap in believing everything valuable must be easy. Because the things that truly matter in life, big dreams, transformative goals, are rarely easy. They're uncomfortable. They require effort, patience, sacrifice. How many times have you abandoned a dream because you hit obstacles? Because it felt unnatural? Because you failed on the first try? But difficulty isn't a sign you're wrong. Often, it's a sign you're growing. What challenges you, shapes you. What hurts, teaches you. And what seems impossible at first becomes part of you, if you choose to keep going. Look at any real success story and you'll see the same pattern. Failures, stumbles, moments of doubt. No great journey is a straight line. Easy is comfortable. And comfortable is often stagnation. So don't run from what's difficult. Accept that if something truly matters to you, it will cost you. But that doesn't mean it's not for you. It means you need to become the person capable of achieving it. These 3 lies, I'm not enough, it's too late, if it were meant for me it would be easy, are at the root of so many decisions we make without realizing. They're in every excuse, every time we leave something unfinished, every time we settle. But now that you see them, now that you can name them, you have a choice. You can look these lies in the face and say, I don't believe you anymore. And there, right there, real change begins. You've begun to see with new eyes those lies that have lived in your mind for so long. You've discovered you don't need to be enough from the start. That time isn't your enemy, and that difficulty doesn't mean something isn't for you. But the journey doesn't end there. There are still other traps that may seem like harmless truths, yet steal your power every day. And one of the most dangerous is this: I need others' approval to have worth. This lie isn't always spoken aloud. Often it hides behind seemingly normal decisions. You studied what your parents wanted. You chose a job that looks good, even if it doesn't fulfill you. You post things hoping someone will say, wow, you're amazing. You say yes when you want to say no. You change how you dress, speak, even who you are, just to fit in. Sound familiar? The need for approval isn't weakness. It's human. We all want to feel accepted, validated. The problem begins when you confuse external acceptance with internal worth. When your self-esteem depends on others' applause, you live like a puppet, moving to others' whims. And the saddest part? That applause is never enough. There's always something missing. You always need more. Because it's not about the applause, it's about the unhealed wound inside. What if for one moment you could disconnect from that need to please? What would you do if no one judged you? What paths would you choose if you didn't have to satisfy anyone else? That's where your truth lies. That's where freedom begins. You weren't born to be a well-regarded copy. You were born to be you. And your worth needs no approval. It's already within you, waiting to be recognized. There's a story about a man with a donkey. One day, he decided to go to the market with his son. First, the father rode while the son walked. People muttered, "What a bad father, making the child walk." So they switched. The son rode while the father walked. Then people said, "What a spoiled child, letting his old father walk." So both rode the donkey. And people protested, "Poor animal, such abuse." Finally, both walked beside the donkey. Guess what people said? "How foolish, having a donkey and walking." Moral: no matter what you do, people will always have opinions. So better do what your soul asks. The next lie, number 5, is equally insidious. My circumstances determine my destiny. This is one of the most paralyzing beliefs. It's comfortable because it removes responsibility. It's easy to say, "I don't have time, I don't have money, I wasn't as lucky as others." And yes, circumstances can be tough. No one chooses where they're born, who raises them, what opportunities they get early on. But there's a difference between recognizing difficulties and living enslaved by them. Here's the truth: your circumstances may influence, but they don't define who you can become. History is full of people born in poverty who built empires. People who suffered abuse then became healers. People who failed 1,000 times before succeeding. What they shared wasn't an easy life. It was a decision. The decision not to let their starting conditions mark their final destination. You can be surrounded by chaos and still build peace. You can have very little and still create much. You can be alone and still develop an inner strength that amazes. What matters isn't what you have now, but what you choose to do with it. What matters is the story you choose to tell yourself. If you repeat you're a victim, you'll live as one. If you repeat you're a creator, you'll start acting like one. And when your actions change, your world changes too. Maybe you grew up in a home where they told you you wouldn't go far. Maybe your resources are scarce today. Maybe you have no support or guidance. But you have something powerful: awareness. You can think, learn, decide. And that's more than many use. There are people with every advantage who never lift a finger. You can do something different. You can break the pattern. You can become living proof that the past doesn't define the future. Think right now of someone you admire. Someone who achieved something important. Do you think they had it easy? Do you think they never had doubts, obstacles, pain? What separates those who advance from those who stay behind is one thing: the decision not to give up. It doesn't matter how many times you fail. It matters how many times you try again. These two lies, the need for approval and believing your circumstances limit you, are connected. Because when you don't believe in your own worth, you seek external validation. And when you feel everything's against you, you lose the power to act. But you're not here to spectate your life. You're here to take control. And that begins when you stop believing these stories. Maybe you can't change everything today, but you can change your focus. You can start acting from truth, not fear. You can start building a life that looks more like your dreams and less like others' expectations. Because in the end, the only person who'll be with you at every step, every fall, every success, is you. And when you decide to believe in yourself, when you stop needing permission to live your truth, that's when everything begins to change. When you realize you don't need anyone's approval to have worth, and that your circumstances don't dictate your destiny, something inside you begins to awaken. It's as if a fog starts to lift, and you can finally see more clearly. But there are still more shadows to illuminate. Lies that have been so present, so normalized, they almost seem like absolute truths. But they're not. They're mental cages, and today we're going to break two more. The sixth lie is so common that many repeat it as if it were wisdom: I need to have everything figured out before I begin. This thought is paralyzing. It's that idea that you can't start a project until you have the perfect plan. That you can't change careers until you're 100% prepared. That you can't venture into something new until you're absolutely certain everything will work out. And here's the problem: that certainty never comes. Because life offers no guarantees. The path only reveals itself when you walk it. The learning only comes when you dare. No one starts out knowing everything. No one starts completely prepared. You start as best you can, with what you have. And in the process, you become strong, capable, wise. Look around you. All the great changes in history, all the advances, all the movements, began with someone who didn't have all the answers. But they were clear about one thing: they couldn't stay where they were. So they began. With fear, yes. With doubts, too. But they began. And that simple act, starting, changed everything. The fear of mistakes, of the unknown, of judgment keeps many people from ever leaving the starting line. They spend their lives waiting for the perfect moment, which doesn't actually exist. The perfect moment is an illusion that keeps people trapped in comfort, in endless planning, in someday. But change, growth, transformation, all these live in today. You don't need to see the whole staircase to take the first step. You just need to take one step. And if you stumble, you get up. If you fail, you learn. If you doubt, you breathe and keep going. Because every step you take, even the clumsy ones, brings you closer to your purpose. Every action, no matter how small, builds the path you couldn't see before. Remember this: progress always beats perfection. Always. Because while you're waiting to be ready, there's someone out there with fewer resources, less knowledge, and more mistakes, who's already moving forward. And that brings us to the seventh and final lie. One that seems harmless but is like a slow poison: it's too late for me. How many times have you told yourself that, if only I'd started years ago, if I were younger, if I hadn't wasted so much time? This thought is devastating because it traps you in nostalgia and regret. It makes you believe that past time determines what you can do today. But that's not true. The truth is that as long as you're breathing, there's time. As long as you have life, you have opportunity. You might not start with the same advantages as others, it might take more effort, you might have to go slower, but you still can. And that's enough. Think of all the people who started late and achieved extraordinary things. There are those who wrote their first book after 60. Those who created their company after being fired. Those who found true love when they'd stopped expecting it. Life doesn't have a universal clock marking the right moment. It has now. And now is powerful if you choose to use it. You're not late. You're right on time for you. Because everything you've lived through, even the most painful experiences, has brought you here. And from here, you can build something new. It doesn't matter if you didn't believe in yourself before. Today you can start. It doesn't matter if you lost years in relationships, jobs, or habits that weren't good for you. Today you can change. The future isn't written. It's written with every choice you make. And you can choose to believe it's not too late. That the past doesn't define you. That the time you have left is enough to leave your mark. That the best may still be yet to come. These two lies, the idea that you need to have everything figured out before starting, and the belief that it's already too late, are like two sides of the same coin. One makes you wait to begin, the other makes you believe it's no longer worth it. But both are lies. Because you can start today, right where you are, with what you have. And that beginning, no matter how small it seems, can completely change your story. Most people don't fail from lack of ability, but from lack of decision. They give up before starting. They abandon their dreams because someone told them it was too late, or because they don't feel prepared. But you're not here for that. You're here to awaken. To remember that life isn't a straight line, nor a race with fixed deadlines. It's a unique experience, and each day is a blank page you can fill with purpose. So today, as you listen to this, pause for a second. Breathe. And decide. Decide to stop believing those stories that have limited you. Decide to act, even with fear. Decide to walk, even if you can't see the end of the path. Decide to live, even if you've lost years. Because the only way to change your life is to live it from truth. Now, after exposing these 7 lies one by one, after facing head-on those ideas that seemed like truths and conditioned us for years, the question is no longer whether you can change, but whether you're willing to. Because now you know. You can no longer claim ignorance. Now you have the tools, the clarity, the awareness. And with that comes responsibility. The responsibility not to turn back. Look at what you've learned. That you don't need anyone's approval to have worth. That your circumstances don't dictate your destiny. That failure isn't the end, but part of the journey. That comparing yourself to others only clouds your vision. That you're not a victim of your story, but its author. That you don't need to have everything figured out to begin. And that it's never too late to change. That's an internal revolution. An awakening. But this revolution doesn't happen just by listening to these words. It's something you must cultivate every day. Because the lies will still be out there. You'll still see others moving faster. You'll hear voices telling you you can't. You'll have moments of doubt, fatigue, fear. And that's where this knowledge must become action. Where your new truths must speak louder than the old lies. True transformation doesn't come from grand moments, but from small decisions, repeated constantly. It happens when you choose to wake up a little earlier to work on yourself. When you choose not to give up after a mistake. When you silence self-judgment and speak to yourself with compassion. When, instead of focusing on what you lack, you appreciate what you already have. When, instead of just dreaming, you take action. Each of those small decisions is a silent declaration, I'm writing a different story. And not everyone does that. Only the brave do it. Someone like you. Because yes, change hurts. Discomfort hurts. Letting go of old beliefs, old habits, old fears hurts. But it hurts more to live half a life. It hurts more to reach the end of your days and realize you were a prisoner of false ideas. That you didn't live because of fear. That you didn't dare because of insecurity. That you didn't fight for yourself. And that doesn't have to be your story. Today, right here, you have the chance to change it. To be the unexpected twist yourself. To be the exception. To be the one who doesn't settle. Who doesn't repeat the pattern. Who doesn't inherit the same chains. Who frees themselves. Imagine a life where you stop waiting for others' permission. Where you don't compare yourself, but celebrate yourself. Where you understand that every failure shapes you. Where you begin, even if you don't know how it will end. Where every day is a new opportunity, not a countdown. That life exists. And it begins when you decide to stop living in lies. Many people look for magic formulas, strategies, quick tricks. But the deepest truth is this: everything changes when you change. Your environment, your relationships, your results, your emotions. It all begins with you. You don't need the world to change. You need to change. And when you do, the world responds differently. So today you're not finishing this as the same person who started it. Now you know more. Now you see more. Now you are more. And what you do with that is your decision. But if you choose to take that step, if you choose to start living from truth, you won't just transform your life. You'll inspire others to do the same. Because people don't listen so much to what you say, but to who you are. Your example will be the message. Your change will be the mirror. And without realizing it, you'll be light for someone else. And that's the most powerful thing. Because by freeing yourself, you open the path for others to free themselves too. So thank you. Thank you for coming this far. For listening to yourself. For questioning yourself. For not settling. For seeking to grow. Because in a world that shouts lies disguised as truths, your desire to awaken is already an act of courage. Now it's your turn. Not tomorrow. Not when you're ready. Not when everything is perfect. Close your eyes for a moment and breathe. Feel the weight of what you've learned. Feel the strength of your decision. And begin. Take that first step. Make that call. Change that internal conversation. Break that habit. Drop that excuse. Abandon that lie. Because you deserve it. Because you can. Because this moment is yours.